Today, I'd like to talk to you about the first step that you should take if you are going to take the Federal Court Interpreter Certification examination, especially the oral portion. So the most important thing to do to pass this challenging exam is to get to know the test intimately. It's very important for you to study what the exam is going to cover, to analyze what are the components and what's going to be expected of you. So I like to say that you should get to know the beast so you can tame the beast. So basically, I suggest that you go online and you Google FCICE Examinee Handbook. And they lay out everything that you need to know about this test. Here, we're going to be working particularly with the second portion, which is after the written examination, the oral examination. And they really go into depth explaining what you're going to be faced with. What are the parts of the exam, what you're going to be expected to accomplish during each one of these sections. And they also give you very specific tools on how to prepare and what to expect. So we're going to go directly to page number 33. So we can work on learning the components of the oral portion of this exam. So here we are. This is the oral examination. As you can see here, it is composed of 5 different sections. First, you're going to do a sight translation. So of course, you're going to be given a written document. You're going to go from English, interpreting into Spanish. Then you're going to do your second sight translation from Spanish, interpreting into English. And then you're going to move on to your simultaneous interpretation into Spanish. This is a monologue speech. The fourth element is consecutive interpretation from Spanish to English and English into Spanish. And finally, your simultaneous interpretation into Spanish. Usually this is witness testimony, question and answer. So I want you to really understand what each section entails. So we're going to be reading about each one of the parts. As you can see here, the first portion, the sight translation from English into Spanish, is going to be approximately 230 words. This part represents 10% of your exam, and it has a total of 22 scorable units. You're going to be given 5 minutes to complete the task. First, you're going to be given the time to read it silently, and then you're going to be given the opportunity to interpret it out loud. I do advise that you take the full time that you're allowed to read. They will let you know and nudge you when it's time to begin interpreting. Some students or some examinees like to skip over this part and just do a skim reading. And then when it's time to interpret, they're not ready to render it. And the first step of interpretation is comprehension. If you don't understand the content of the message, you're simply not going to be able to deliver it in the target language. So take all the time you need to read this text thoroughly. Once you begin interpreting, allow yourself to silently read the first portion of each section and chunk it up. What that means is when there's a period, when there's a comma, when there's a colon, when there's a question mark, when there's a natural pause in the text, you're going to stop talking and you're going to read ahead. When you know what's coming up and how to begin interpreting again, you're going to start up again. This tip will help you sound more confident, will help you to have less hesitations, will help you make less mistakes and have a very smooth rendition with a very professional mindset. Then we move on to also the second sight translation. This time is from Spanish into English, and it's going to be fairly similar. You're going to be dealing with legal documents that are written in higher register. And I want you to really read this thoroughly, because sometimes you might get things like letters or letters written to judges by people who have a lower register. So I want you to really, once you finish watching this video, go to the handbook and read it thoroughly. Then we come to the part that represents the biggest part of your exam score, which is the simultaneous interpretation section. This is not going to be at a fast speed. This is going to be at 120 words per minute. It takes you about 7 minutes to complete this section. It has a total of 65 scoring units, and it represents 29% of your exam. So it's approximately 840 words in total. So I want you to really allow yourself, when you make a mistake, to move on. A lot of examinees get hung up on a single mistake they made. And when you're interpreting, you have to be very present. You have to be very zen. If you make a mistake and you don't know how to say something, you either skip it, you say it in the same source language, or you take your best guess and you move on. But you pretend that every moment is a fresh new moment with no mistakes in it. Because if you get hung up on the past, your mindset is going to be very anxious and you're not going to be open to what's coming to you. And also expect that there's going to be at least 5 vocabulary units that you don't know. So when you see them, you go, oh, there you are. I imagine you would come along. And then you could just either skip it, say it in the same language, or take your best guess and move on. Don't expect to know everything. And you can still pass this exam, even if you don't get every single unit, because there are plenty of units. We move on to the consecutive section. It has 76 scoring units. It represents 35% of this exam. It has from 875 to 925 words in length. I haven't been able to confirm this, but I believe the biggest chunk is between 55 and 60 words. If you check out Interpretrain, we have a lot of practices that have from 55 to 65 words to get you used to this length. And also, you're going to be given usually the examination of a Spanish-speaking witness. And then an English-speaking witness is going to carry out the examination. So make sure that you arrive at this test with plenty of knowledge of consecutive interpretation. We also offer a lot of note-taking tips and symbols, so you can pour it over your fingertips when you're taking notes. And allow yourself to take your time to read your notes. During the sight translation portion and the consecutive interpretation portion, you set the pace. So when you're interpreting, you decide how fast you're going to go. It's better to go slowly and get it right than to go quickly and miss a lot of things. Then we move on to the simultaneous interpretation, which is the section that has witness testimony, questions and answers. This one is worth 35 scorable units for your exam, and it represents 16% of the test. In this text, the length is about 600 words. This is where we go for speed, because it's going to be 160 words per minute, and you're going to be given 5 minutes to complete it. So it's a really, really good idea for you to work with speed. You'll find Interpretrain has very slowly, progressively faster practices. So we let you do the same practice at 120, 140, 160. The best way for you to achieve this type of speed is to do the same practice over and over again at faster and faster speeds. So make sure you check out this page, because it really has many suggestions for you to prepare for the exam. It has practical things to do for you to get to your exam date ready to go. And it will lay out everything that you need to know so you know what to expect on the day of the exam. We wish you great success on your test. Work hard and you can accomplish your dreams. We're here to support you. Make sure to check us out. We have a lot of resources to support your process. You can do this.